1952, things were going pretty well, and my parents decided to move the premises, and they got premises in Atlantic Road, Muizenberg, in a building called Sorrento Court, and they opened, they continued with the type of business, deli and many more grocery lines and imported goods. My dad used to attend various sales at the docks, and there was always imported goods were a luxury in those days. There were things like asparagus and salmon and herring and cheeses and what have you. We had a big range of stuff. Today, when the average young person goes to a supermarket, it's all laid on. Believe me, in those days it wasn't laid on, and we had a bigger and bigger range. We also developed the grocery side of the business, and grocery shopping was totally different to what it is today. We had a fleet of about 10 or 12 bicycles, and we had men that used to go around to people's homes in the morning and with a book, and they used to collect orders, and later in the day these orders were dispatched and delivered in these big wicker baskets, which were supplied by the civilian blind and fitted into these baskets. And it was quite amazing on how these delivery men used to manipulate these big loads of baskets and drive around delivering these things. Muizenberg depended in those days to a great extent on what was called the season, which was the holiday season, which started from about mid-November till about March month. And people were coming from all over South Africa to Muizenberg, the reason being that it was a fantastic place to come to. Air travel wasn't such a big deal in those days. It wasn't available as much as it is today, and people used to come for 3 or 4 weeks. In fact, we had many people that we used to sort of administer their flats and their houses. The rich landlords from Johannesburg, there were lots of properties, various little blocks of flats and various cottages and houses along the way to St. James and Cork Bay, and we had a terrific delivery system on these bicycles. And before the season, people used to write us letters, and we used to fill up their flats and what have you. And things went pretty well. My dad decided that after about 8 or so years, he'd had enough of traveling up and down to Bell, where this kosher polony factory was, and he introduced a manager to this particular place, and he sort of retired from there and came to assist my mother, who was the kingpin of this grocery business in Muizenberg. She really was. She was very, very, very well liked. She was a loving person. She was a friendly person. She had an unbelievable, generous heart. She was a woman in a million. She really was. And my dad but thought it would be the business was growing, so he came and he concentrated with her in the business. After about a year or two, fortunately, available premises became available next door, Saks Delicacies as it was then called, and my dad decided to reopen a butchery, and he applied for a license, which took some time because licenses or permits or quotas for butcheries weren't easily given. It was the same as getting a liquor license in those days. Anyhow, in 1954, my dad opened a butchery next to Saks Delicacies, and I was about 14 at the time, and I was instrumental in helping him set it up, buying the machinery and getting the thing started. I was at school, but I spent a lot of time. And we got started, and he opened the shop, and I used to spend all my free time in the butcher shop. He my parents wanted me to concentrate on the grocery business. They thought the grocery business was the business. It was a good business, but my passion was to be in the meat business. And contrary to my dad's suggestions, where he used to tell me, learn about the groceries, I was more interested in the meat. And in end of 1956, I left school and I started working with my father in Saks Butchery. I learned a lot from day one. We used to sell kosher meat. Kosher meat is kosher meat is only the forequarter of an animal, but we sold the whole animal. In fact, we sold the forequarter and the hindquarter. So at that time, we served everybody. We didn't sell pork then because it was a kosher place. My dad was an entrepreneur, and it was his main aim to start supplying meat as much as he could, particularly to the hotels and the kosher hotels in Muizenberg at the time. In Muizenberg at the time, there must have been about 25 or 30 hotels. And slowly but surely, they became customers of ours. And the butchery plus the grocery business were paralleled, and things were hard, but they went pretty well. We put an enormous amount of work into it. And